Good evening and welcome to the City of East Franklin Council meeting. We're going to start off tonight's meeting with our Finance Committee meeting. Mr. Katz.
Thank you. We will open the Finance Committee meeting at 6:01. Resolution 25R07, a resolution authorizing the payment of a stipend to the new Franklin Finance Director as compensation for additional hours worked in relation to year-end 2024, year opening 2025, and declaring an emergency. Thank you. We will open the Finance Committee. Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to bring this. As you know, and I think some of the people know, December and January are the busiest months in the finance department. We have to close out all of 2024. There's raises that have to be calculated, accruals. There's just a whole lot of work in December. January, then I have to reopen and allocate those raises, get payroll out in the meantime. There's a number of reports that have to be filed at the state level. We've known for a long time it's a lot of work. Generally in December and January, I pretty much try to leave the administrative office alone and let them get done what they need to get done. That situation got aggravated to a sense when Diane Snyder, who we love dearly, after 40 years of service, decided to retire. And her retirement date was effective November 1st, or December 1st.
November 30th.
November 30th. So we had to go into December and January very, very, very shorthanded. We had numerous and lengthy discussions about how that would be handled. We went into that with the idea that we would handle it with existing staff. Meanwhile, we've been looking to fill that position, but we didn't have anybody at that point in time. So, it's fingers crossed. It really wasn't that. It was, we think we can do this, and we'll find out. And we knew it was going to take an enormous amount of energy and a lot of extra time. And the bulk of that, the vast majority of that, fell to the finance director, who also had the expertise in the HR segment. I did not suggest a stipend going into that. Not that I didn't think we were going to accomplish it, but you never know. It was no small task. And Susan met that challenge. And all the deadlines were met. Really flying colors. So with that in mind, that's why I recommend this stipend. The amount it's an arbitrary amount in a sense. Susan being salary, it doesn't qualify for overtime. If she did qualify for overtime, the overtime rate would be $50 an hour. We figured, and I didn't ask her to track her specific time. And I want to mention before I forget, not only did she put extra time in, but this is the holidays. This is the Christmas holidays. This is the New Year's holidays, when people kind of like to put their feet up, take a little extra time off, and slow down a little bit. Well, that didn't happen. And so I saw the work product come in. She worked at least 15 hours a week overtime, maybe as much as 20, some weeks maybe a little bit more. If she had worked 15 hours a week over the 9 weeks, that would be $6,750. If the actual number was 20 hours a week, it'd be $9,000. So I picked the $5,000 number, and there was another level of significance to that. There's actually, with the stipend, there's still a cost savings to the city, because the salary for that position would have been just a little bit over, about $9,800, had the HR coordinator been here to assist in that task. And what we've seen is, on a regular basis, it required some overtime on her behalf as well. So probably about $10,000 or maybe a little bit excess, had we actually had somebody in that position. Instead of that $10,000, I'm asking you to approve a $5,000 stipend. It's not just a clever way of saying it, it really is a cost savings to the city of $5,000. And I think it's well earned and well deserved, and so I'm hopeful council can support that.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Comfortable waiving the three?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to our next resolution. Resolution 25R09, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund to the police district fund and declaring an emergency. This is our normal transfer of funds of $250,000. Questions, comments? Comfortable waiving three? We are closing the Finance Committee meeting at 6:05.
Thank you, Mr. Cotts. Our next committee meeting is going to be Public Utilities. Mr. Stiles?
All right, I'll open this committee meeting of the Public Utilities Committee at 6:05. First item up is resolution number 25R08, a resolution approving an agreement with Aqua Ohio Inc. for share contribution to the cost of the Rollins Bundle Water Main Extension Project and declaring an emergency. This does a couple of things. Number one, it sets us up to get that 20% reimbursement from Aqua. So we always like to accept money whenever we can. And second, I think it kind of spelled out some details of the contract about how it's going to go about. I think probably the most notable part of that is the fact that no citizens are going to get charged to tie into the, no citizens are going to get charged for the water main unless they wish to tie in, and they spelled that number out as $1,000. So I think which is pretty economical if you want to give up your well and tie into the city, if you wish, that number's spelled out. Here, you got further comments?
Just that this is a city project. It started with the $970,000 federal grant that we received for this project. And this is a project that's going to bring water to the ODNR Visitor Center. And it also make it available for the Tudor House and for the St. Luke's Home and for folks on the route where it's going. And so it's a city project. The city, we've already approved actually the contract for the construction and the construction inspection. The city will pay the funds and then be reimbursed. The 20% of the total will come from Aqua. 80% of the total will come from the federal funds. And so the city is paying, will end up paying nothing for this project. The provision with Aqua, again, there's no assessment. Nobody's required to tie in. If they decide, if someone along that route wants to tie into the water, they have what they call line fee, which is, I know some on council are familiar with this, but they've capped that at $1,000 for the, I guess the lot fee is what they call it. For and then you'd have to pay to run the line to your house, whatever that costs. And probably decommission the well, or there's some ways you can keep the well if you do a backflow. But that's up to every individual resident. Nobody has to do anything. But if they choose to, then they're going to have to pay some expense.
That cost probably will, not necessarily, but probably will go up if they don't hook in at this time.
That $1,000? No, we're locked in.
Okay, you're locked into
Yeah.
that price, and anybody that wants to
Yes,
tie in, or
at any
just for
time.
this project?
No, at any time.
Okay, for any of the projects,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
So it's and we've had this, and we've talked about this before. We've had this agreement with Aqua, and it just needed to be memorialized. So that's what this contract's about.
Questions, comments? Perfect. Well, I will close this meeting of the Public Utilities Committee at 6:07. Do we want to waive the three?
Do you?
Are we good? I'm okay with waiving the three? Good? Yes. Thank you. And closed.
Thank you. Before we get started on our normal council meeting, we usually take this part to talk about our Citizen of the Month. This is a program we started about this time last year. It's a really great program because it brings people to light that we may not know or know a lot about. It really just is our way of saying thank you for everything they've done for the community. The person that we have as our Citizen of the Month for February is Mr. Larry Ray. I talked to him on the phone a little bit. He gave me a bunch of good information, but it sounds like Ms. Jones has something that she would like to read in place of it.
I would, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Larry, would you and your girl come up? Because you don't see one without the other, which has always been wonderful. Wherever you want, right here, so the camera gets you. Larry has been 66 years a resident, and volunteer resident, I should say, of New Franklin. He was born and raised in Manchester, had a large family of 6 children, mother and dad, and as a teenager, he and his dad dug the footers for the Manchester High School. After high school, while working for, I believe, Bob Lockhart Construction, Bob donated the machine and the fuel, and Larry donated himself. And Lockhart Sports Complex was built. He also helped build Trinity Church, and after retiring in 2006 from his construction job of 40 years, he volunteered to help build Sisler Field. He donated his time, his expertise, his years of knowledge, and you know every underground pipe in Manchester. You helped build a super sports complex, and you have a pavilion with your name on it. You've donated 10 gallons of your O-positive blood, and soon we'll be donating blood platelets. That's really a neat thing. I think Jim does that a lot too, don't you, Jim?
I'm not on that level.
No. There are no strangers to you. You'll help anybody with anything, anytime. Your wife of 60 years is the beautiful Carol. You have 4 beautiful, smart daughters. Did you want to name them, Carol?
Kim, Kelly, Tracy,
And you have 6 beautiful and smart granddaughters and 1 smart grandson. Do you want to name them also? You'll try. This is a test.
Cheyenne, Julianne, Caroline, Casey, Kyle, Ren, and Zoe.
Perfect. You passed.
Yeah.
I did it.
With all your girls, you have taken care of lots of cars to keep them safely on the road. So that's tires, windshield wipers, gas, windshield fluid, car washes, fender benders, pulling them out of ditches. Teaching them to take good care of their cars and loving every minute of it. You are a wonderful son, brother, uncle, husband, father, and pop. We are very blessed to have you. You have lived your whole life well. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We are so proud of you.
Well, yeah, as we were doing, I mean, I gotta add, big surprise. I'm just sitting here thinking, 40 years ago, thereabouts, coaching baseball, and we needed some screens in front of the benches, and so kids didn't get killed with foul balls. And so we got a bunch of volunteers, we're down there trying to work on that field, and trying to sink these holes into that coal. And we weren't getting very far.
No.
I learned to not love a jackhammer that day. Anyway, but we need some help. Well, here comes this guy. He said, "Who's this guy? He's not even coaching." He said, "I said, that's Gramps." He said, "He built this place." And there he was, volunteering his time, as usual. Fast forward 20 years, we're at Sisler, and we got the church to sell that field to us. And who's going to lay this thing out? And that's just 2 of the, how many of the times that this guy, get over here, right? That this guy, and you too, reached out. And, I like to say, and he is typical. Nobody does as much as this guy. But it's typical of New Franklin that he doesn't even want to be here today. Okay? He's not looking for any praise or any glory. He didn't do any of it for that reason. But this is the kind of guy, this is the kind of family that makes this the place that it is, the special place that it is to live. So I'm so proud to be here with you. Yeah, congratulations. All right.
Do you want to say anything, Larry?
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without my partner and my helper for 60 years.
I agree.
Say we're fine.
That's good stuff.
I heard what you did.
Oh,
That's gonna be a hard one to follow.
Yeah.
If I could, I'd like to call to order the City of New Franklin Council meeting. If you would please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could, roll call please.
Mr. Cox?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Present.
Mrs. Jones?
present.
Mr. Powell?
Present.
Mr. Stiles?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Almond?
Present. I'd have a motion to approve the regular scheduled meeting minutes for January 15th, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
We have a first, we have a second.
Second.
Oh, we have a first and a second?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
I get a motion to approve the public hearing minutes for the scheduled meeting on January 2nd, 2025. This is for the Tudor House.
I'll make the motion.
We have a first, we have a second.
Second.
We have a first and a second for it?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
We are now to the public comment section. If you would, if you have anything you'd like to bring up to council's attention, talk to us about anything, would you just please state your name and address? Seeing none. Move on to our first resolution, Resolution 25R07, Kelly.
A resolution authorizing the payment of a stipend to the New Franklin Finance Director as compensation for additional hours worked in relation to year-end 2024, year opening 2025, and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the three readings on Resolution 25R07.
Second.
You have a first and a second?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
We move to adopt Resolution 25R07.
Second.
You have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mrs. Jones?
No.
Mr. Powell?
No.
Mr. Stiles?
No.
Mr. Wolf?
No.
Mr. Almond?
No.
Mr. Cox?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
No. The resolution fails, 0-7. Next resolution, Kelly, 25R08.
A resolution approving an agreement with Aqua Ohio Incorporated for share contribution to the cost of the Rollins Bundle Water Main Extension Project and declaring an emergency.
This resolution is assigned to the Public Utilities Committee. I make a motion to waive the three.
Second.
We have a first and a second?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 25R08.
Second.
We have a first and a second?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0. Resolution 25R09, Kelly.
A resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund to the police district fund and declaring an emergency.
Oh, hey, that's me. Hi. This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee, and we move to waive the three readings on Resolution 25R09.
Second.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
We move to adopt Resolution 25R09.
Second.
We have a first and a second?
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes. Resolution passes 7-0. On to our favorite part of the meeting, the mayor's report.
Thank you. Financial disclosure forms are due. I think everybody got the notice by May 15th. Just giving you a heads up on that. We have two forms from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, and both of them relate to the transfer of ownership for two separate liquor licenses. And with these situations, what council is required to do is to indicate whether or not they want to have a hearing on this transfer. And we've done it in the past by motion, then with a roll call as to whether or not you want to have a hearing. The purpose to have the hearing would be to object to the transfer. We shared these with council a couple weeks ago, shared them with the police. I haven't heard any adverse comments relative to them. From the administration standpoint, we don't have any objection to the transfer. The first of these is the Lakeside Pub LLC, DBA Dano's Lakeside Pub, and it's a transfer of ownership. Previous owners, Timothy Adkins, 37.5%, James House, 37.5%, Matthew Coleman, 25%. The new revision would be Timothy Adkins, 62.5%, James House, 37.5%. So as to that one, I would ask for a motion either to request a hearing or to not request a hearing.
I'll make a motion not to request a hearing.
I'll second that. Kevin?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
The second relates to the license at 357 West Turkeyfoot Lake LLC, DBA Upper Deck. And the share transfer here, in the previous ownership was Timothy Adkins, 100% of the shares. And the transfer is going to Matthew Coleman, 100% of the shares. So Matthew Coleman will be the sole owner of that liquor license. Again, there hasn't been any objections to that proposed by the police or the administration. And so I would ask for a motion either to request a hearing or to not request a hearing.
I'll make a motion not to request a hearing.
Second. We have a first and a second, Kelly?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Let's see. I want to give you an update on the State Route 93 sewer project. Again, these are federal funds, $3 million. We've been in this process for months. There have been some changes as we've gone through the course of this, really years, you could say. When we started the project, we thought there was going to be a need for a pump station on Vanderhoof. And then we were able to get approval for additional flow to the Zellray plant. And then it was determined there was a thought that they would have to convert the Zellray plant immediately to a pump station. That's not going to be necessary. That'll be a second phase of this project, which brought the project cost down to the range of in the range of $3 million. And again, that's federal money. The environmental aspect still has to be satisfied because it's federal money. We're very close on that, and Arcadis is doing the submission on that. We have OHM working with us on submitting the work plan. It's relatively complex stuff, but everything is moving as it should. The anticipation is that we'll have those approvals probably by mid-March. That being, and then there's a final step that it goes to the back to the EPA, and they have to sort of unlock the funds. They have to say, okay, you've satisfied all of our answers, and now you can go forward. We could proceed with bidding on this at this point, and we've been in touch with the EPA coordinator, and they said that we could do that. But in conversations with Mike Vinay and Summit County Sanitary Sewer, this being February already, and a lot of the contractors already lining up work, we probably wouldn't be in a position to really go out for bids until later in March. And the suggestion has been to wait until September, October to go out for bids. That we could put in the bid package a requirement of completion within 180 days. And I've been assured from the sanitary sewer guys that that's more than a workable time frame. So the intention will be to go out for bid in the fall. likely start construction in the spring, March or so. Construction will be completed by September, October, maybe December. So the good news is the sewer will be in the ground by the late summer, fall next year, which fits, I think, rather nicely with the conversations we're having and starting to have we're starting to hear from developers. We're starting to hear that developers are interested. We've spoken to one broker for a developer. We haven't had any direct conversations with developers, but we have every confidence that that's going to happen, and we need to make it happen. I guess I should mention as an aside, this is a positive aspect of the zoning review that's going on, because, what should go where is going to be a big question. And I sent something, I forwarded something to you that we got from the Ohio Economic Development offices relative to grant funding for mixed use zoning, and I'm not going to try to explain that necessarily. We'll be taking that up with planning and zoning, but I think these things will run on a parallel track. Again, the good news here is that we'll be using federal funds for the entire project. We have state funds available as well, as you know, almost $4 million. We want to dedicate that to the second phase that can be used towards some of this phase. There are no assessments related to this sewer, and basically the sewer line will run from about Grace Church, which is where Gravity ends. It'll run, this phase will run just past the drive-through, and the road that goes up the drive-through, which we all know is.
John's.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
See if you're paying attention. So it goes a little bit past John's. Then there'll be a line that will take it into the existing line that already services the, the north side of Renninger, the McDonald's and the plaza there, and the flow will go to Zellway. So that's where the line will be. I was advised in a conversation 2 days ago with Mike Vinay from Sanitary Sewer, and we confirmed, and we've known all along, there's no assessments for anybody along this route. However, he has pointed out that once the line is in, the EPA has a right to talk to the commercial enterprises. Summit County Public Health has a right to talk to the residential premises and have a discussion as to whether or not there's any mandatory tie-in to the sewer now that it's available. I don't know how that part will play out. I had a conference with a representative from Public Health. There's waivers, you can get extensions, you can appeal if in fact you don't want to tie into the sewer. The one thing that we're confident of with all of our discussions is that it's going to dramatically increase the value of all these properties. Our expectation is that people are going to want to tie in, but in any event, that's a stage that will come after the sewer's in the ground. But that's separate and apart from any assessments. So that's what's going on with the sewer. All right, let's see. Sisler Park, we will have a public meeting on Tuesday, February 18th at 6:30 right here. And we'll have our consultants will come in, and there'll be some boards, and there'll be some depictions and some ideas of anything and everything that could be done at Sisler Park. Walking trails, restrooms, playgrounds, the works, lights, all of which has a cost. And the purpose of this, at least this initial meeting, is to get a read from the public as what would you like to see? And what would you like to see first? In what order? None of this is binding on anybody, but it's an idea of what we could do and how we could make that really the park that we hope that it will be. And then from there, we can, once following that, there'll be some further discussion at some point. We'll try to pin down exactly what would we like to do and what order would we like to do it in, council. And then start chasing the money for it, probably project by project. There's been a focus on the walking trail as the first, and in my mind, that still would make sense. I don't think it's far from the most expensive of the options. And I think it's the one that most people get a lot of use from almost immediately. So that's going to be Tuesday, February 18th, here in this room. Let me see.
What is the time, Paul?
6:30 PM.
Thank you.
All right, we've had inquiry, two separate inquiries, I understand, relative to marijuana dispensary. And both of them were interested in the bank building that's sitting empty at this point in time. We've looked at, we knew this would probably come in there a while back. There was some discussion about whether there should be a moratorium, and that was declined. And so if somebody applies, as we mentioned at the time, under our zoning, they would likely come in the category as a pharmacy, and pursuant to our code, then the determination is whether or not that's a permitted use in that area, or whether it's a conditional use. Law director will have to weigh in on that. We haven't had formal requests. We've just had some inquiries, so I just want you to make you aware that people are starting to ask. I will tell you that I just saw a study. Well, I don't know if the Beacon or somebody did a study on this. At least it hasn't been the cash cow and the gold mine that some people anticipated. The dispensaries. So I don't know if that's going to discourage anybody or not. Eventually, it will, I suppose, make money, but we'll just have to track that and keep you advised of any applications that come in. We have, I had a discussion today with Bud McDaniel, the mayor from Clinton, and they are interested in talking to us about some partnership again, or some involvement with the New Franklin Fire Department and the Village of Clinton. What he suggested, what his council would like to do is to at least start some discussion. They would like to include a member of council. I think Bud's intention is to include his president of council, which is fine with me. Or if council wants to designate somebody else for that discussion. Once we know who those designees are, we'll try to get something scheduled. And then begin a discussion and see. There's a range of possibilities. One possibility would be to serve Clinton's fire needs the same way we do as the police, which is a contract to handle all those calls. They have an existing fire department. They didn't have a police department. So if they want to keep their fire department intact, then it'd be a little trickier. I don't want to mislead anybody. I think the intention from the New Franklin Fire is that we don't see suggesting reopening a station in Clinton. We have the West Side Station. So if we're going to do something in concert with them, we would assume we would operate out of that station. They don't really have staff. I don't want to speak for them. I guess we'll just get into the discussions and see what they might have in mind. But we've been good neighbors. They've been good neighbors. If there's some way that it makes sense for both sides, we certainly want to have that discussion. So, Mr. Powell, I don't know if you want to know now if you want to be that person, or if you guys want to have some discussion in terms of who you want to designate.
I'd be more than happy to sit in on those meetings. We had talked about that a little bit during our budget meetings, and as you know, the cost of operating the fire department has gone up dramatically. So I just want to make sure if we do enter into an agreement with Clinton, it's not at the cost of our citizens.
Yeah.
And they should pay their share.
Yeah. Well, again, I won't speak for them. I'd love to have more than, open it up to all the council, but I want to be sensitive to what they have in mind. So if they just want one representative, we'll just bring one representative. So, all right. So I'll let you know if and when that happens. We had a further inquiry from the gentleman who came to us relative to our ordinances or lack of ordinances relative to firearm discharge. And we did refer that to our law director. I shared with council, and it's Matt Hicks, no secret, he was here. With him as well, the memo that we got from the law director. It appears that you got an armchair lawyer these things, but it appears that council could make some ordinance relative to, and some, provisions relative to the discharge of firearms if council so inclined to do that. That may change depending on the outcome of a couple pending court cases. and those are both Court of Appeals cases, so there's a good chance no matter how the Court of Appeals rules, it'll end up at the Supreme Court. But in the interim, it appears that, that the advice has been that you can if you want to. I know there's been some inquiry with some surrounding cities. Mr. Powell, I'm aware you got a response back from Barberton.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5, or 3, 2, 3, and 5 that
Yeah.
reached out to Northern South.
And Barberton's, I think I read that correctly, I think they restrict it to 10 acres for discharge of fire.
Yeah, some has some size acreage limits. Castle Falls, it basically depends on what part of town you're in.
Yeah.
Whether they relate back to the Northampton areas. So it just depends on what community you're talking about.
But in any event, I'm just bringing it back to council's attention, and that's council's discretion as to how you might want to proceed on that or not. Let's see. Yeah, and I have two other orders of business. One is, I am happy to announce that Susan Cook and our administration department have once again received the Ohio Auditor of State Award. And Susan, if you come up forward, I'm going to present this to you.
Cool. I need somebody to take a picture.
Will you take one? Yeah, I usually have our. All right. Mr. Powell, you want to come down? We'll present this to you. All right. And this reads, Ohio Auditor of State Award, presented to City of New Franklin. This award is presented for excellence in financial reporting in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and compliance with applicable laws for the fiscal year ended 2023. The citizens you represent are well served by your effective and accountable financial practices. Signed by Keith Faber, Auditor of the State of Ohio. Congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you can give a speech if you want to. These are,
Happy New Year.
I'm going to say this. This makes 6 out of the last 9 years that the city's received this award. They don't just give it away. You have to everything. The years we didn't receive it, there were technical violations. There's never been any finding whatsoever of inability to account for any funds or any funds that weren't spent consistent with the direction of council. So the record in the finance department is exemplary, and to achieve this level 6 years out of 9 is a great. So we're proud of the work that the administration department is doing. And I'm a little disappointed at council, the decision you made. I'm a little disappointed that if you were all going to reject it, that you didn't comment. You had a chance to discuss this. You could have explained why you didn't want to fairly compensate Susan for the time that she gave to the city. So we took advantage of her. Took a lot of hours from her. You can't get that back. And I think she had every right to be compensated. So I just want you to know I'm disappointed in that. That's all I got.
I'm disappointed also, Paul, but I'm disappointed this was not handled in executive session first.
Why?
Because that way we could have discussed. I don't think it's right to put Susan on the spot like that. That's just my opinion.
And I know that was suggested, Mrs. Jones, but there are certain, for instance, and I've said this here, when it came to raises, I think council was correct. One time I just proposed it, and it was suggested we probably ought to talk about that in back. And I think that's a good point, and I would have done that. This isn't a raise. There's nothing particularly sensitive about this, in my view. And if somebody has a problem with this, I heard long and hard transparency. That's what these meetings are for. If somebody had a good reason not to compensate this woman for all the hours that she worked, I think it should be expressed here in public for everybody to hear, not in the back room. That's how I feel about that one. This is different than a raise, my feeling. So I just want to let you know.
Fair enough, and I disagree.
That's all I have.
Finance report, Sue?
Yeah, I just want to say, I did not ask for the stipend, but I did not do this for you guys. I did it for the citizens of New Franklin because they need to do it, and for the employees here, because guess what? You guys, the employees would not have got paid had I not spent a lot less time with my family and a lot of time on a computer at my house and here. And the fact that generally the women that work here are undervalued, that to me is sad. You don't know what kind of liability that you put the city in by your attitudes toward women, but that's enough of that. Okay, we got done with all our deadlines. We have all the ones that are federal and state. We have a few deadlines in February for certain reports that people want that aren't regulated by law, which we are working on those. So we will be getting those done as well. We have coming up next week our first meeting with Julian and Brew for our GAP meetings to start getting our financial report ready for 2024. So we'll be starting that and getting into that, and as soon as that's done, we'll be into the 2024 audit. We also have selected a new employee to fill Diane's spot. We hope that she's a resident of New Franklin, and we hope that she's going to do well, and it's going to be a long time in training because there's a lot to learn. So that's going to be my new job, is training new employees. So hopefully that maybe I can take some vacation days or have a day off. Also, one other thing, Stephen Cook, who you all know is working on like phones and electronics and things of that nature, he would like to see if you could possibly come in a little bit early before the next meeting, because he's got everything set up so that he can set up your individual numbers for having constituents reach you and everything, and it would require him to actually help you with the app on the phone and get it set up. So he will be available before the meeting the next meeting, and he would like to, have you come a little early if you possibly can. So he said it would probably take maybe 45 minutes.
For each person? Or will
No, I think
So
overall, I
maybe
think
an
he
hour?
thinks 45 minutes.
And that's on February 19th.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any old business?
I do, for old business. We're going to do the farmer's market again this year, and I did bring our picture, disregard the times. But I had a call today from a friend of yours, Judy, I believe, and she asked if we would consider starting in June, like maybe the second week in June or the third, because she has dairies. And I believe Terry had mentioned before that some things come in a little bit earlier. And she said that if we would consider, and I'm sorry to spring it on you like this, she just called me before I came in, but I thought I'd go ahead and mention it. But if we could maybe consider doing it maybe the second week in June through September, so that we catch some of those late things that come in and some of the early also. So let me know what you think. That's good. Okay, that's okay.
Any other old business? Any new business? That's all I just wanted to bring up real quick. It kind of blends between old and new business. Going back to the sewer discussion there, originally we had talked about there would be no mandates to tie in. And I thought I heard you say that there may be, depending on what the public health says, maybe a mandate to tie in.
Yeah, what's your experience been in Hudson on that?
We haven't had any, we haven't put in new sewer in areas where there's typically septic. It's either the county owns the sewer now up there, but there hasn't been any mandates to tie in. And that's just one of the things I'd like to at least have some discussion internally with us, with the council, mayor, and the county health, is, we've got an aging population out here, and I would hate to see us have a negative impact on a resident. And I agree, it does improve the property values. But when you're looking at $10,000, $15,000 to abandon your septic and have an excavator come in, tying to the line, the tapping fees and everything else, that's a pretty substantial chunk to somebody who's on a fixed income. So I'd like to see what we can do.
No, I agree, and I don't think a lot of those people want to sell their homes. I know most of us like to stay in our homes as long as we can.
So I'd just like to get some assurances from the county that, moving forward with this, we're not gonna get ourselves into a trip bag where we're putting a bunch of our residents in a bad situation.
Well, this is a good time that it came up. It just got raised to me like 2 days ago. First of all, I want to be clear, everybody understands the area that we're talking about. We're not talking about the neighborhoods. We're talking about Manchester Road. All right? From John's to Grace. Those property owners. So that's the period. Now, what I'll do is I'm gonna see if I can get somebody from Summit County Public Health to come here. Okay? And then council's gonna have a decision to make. Because the way it's been explained to me, at least Mike Vinay's, and he's the director of Summit County Sanitary Sewer, this is not something that's unique to New Franklin, the way it was explained to me. This is consistent with the Ohio Revised Code, Summit County Public Health. When sewer goes into an area that's been previously served by septic, that, and I'm gonna assume, and I talked to him about this, that there's some statutory authority for the public health to say, hey, listen, in the interest of public health, sewer is now available, we want you to tie into that. Apparently, the Ohio EPA makes those decisions relative to the commercial locations. So I'm going to suggest we get that information as soon as we can. If council is uncomfortable with that requirement, then we'll just scrap the sewer plant. There won't be sewer on 93. So that's really what it comes down to. It's pretty simple. I inquired as if there was some way, not that we're bleeding money, but is there any way that for the, and I had this conversation with Mike Vinay, for the city to subsidize any of that, and his feeling was that that would not be possible, and I don't know how we could, quite frankly. How you could use city dollars for certain residents and not every resident. So that's probably not gonna be an option. So, yeah, it's late in the game, but I'm glad we're here now, as opposed to before we went out for bid. And council's gonna have to decide if you wanna scrap the sewer plant.
But you're saying
For the benefit of
definitely,
those people that live on that stretch.
you're saying definitely it's only that stretch. How
Oh,
can you
yes,
say
absolutely only that stretch. It's only where the sewer goes in. It's only where the line goes. If they lay the line in front of your house, then public health may say, hey, the sewer is available now, you gotta abandon your septic. But the only place this line is going is on Manchester Road, from Grace to John's. So I'll try to get somebody from public health at the next meeting. And maybe I can get somebody from sanitary sewers and we can talk about it here in open forum.
I think that'd be appreciated, because I think we'd like to know that before it becomes a problem.
Sure. Well, I found out 48 hours ago and I'm telling everybody.
Thanks. Okay, that's the only thing I had. Anybody else with anything for new business? All right. Seeing nothing, well, one thing I also want to mention under new business, I stopped by the board of elections today, just before the closing. There are 2 mayor candidates, and there's 5 for council at large. So there will actually be some choices this year. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. Any public comments, questions, or anything you've heard from tonight's meeting?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I'm with the Ohio Veterans Memorial Park. I would like to publicly thank Judy and her husband, Jones Roloff, for donating their dumpsters to us at the park most of the year. We
Oh,
have.
honey, no,
Thank you.
That's a
you're
big
more
deal.
than welcome. That was our pleasure.
Thanks for everything you guys. And thanks for everything you guys do now. That's an amazing, that's just a cherished asset for the community down there. It's
Tomorrow we unload a Huey helicopter.
Wow.
It's been 17 years coming.
Wow.
Wow.
You have been an inspiration to us. I'm going to tell you, everybody in New Franklin comes down. We are really pleased with what you've done and the respect you've given our veterans. That's so
Well, they
important.
deserve it.
They do deserve it, honey, more than ever.
Yeah, thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Can we get your name and address for the record?
My name's Gary Kindig, Kindig. My address?
Yes, please.
I'm not gonna get toilet paper down there.
Never know.
1004 Center Road,
Thank you.
New Franklin, Ohio, 44216.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Anybody else with a public comment, question, concern? All right, seeing none. We don't have a need for executive session, correct?
No.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we do.
I'll say that after.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have the first?
Second.
Okay, we have the first and the second?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Stiles?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Almond?
Yes.
Our next meeting is February 19th at 6 p.m.
Thank you all for coming. We enjoyed it.